It was just a team where, we lost Ben, we lost a lot of the O-line. We just didn't know anything on offense, really. We didn't have identity. We had a young guy coming out quarterback. I was young, the team was young, and I really didn't have nobody to almost learn from the offensive side. I think the veteran guy on that team was like a 2-3 year vet, and that's really nothing. You know what I mean? Like, he's still learning himself, and I'm coming in and I'm just trying to look for people to pick their brain off of, and it was just defensive guys. So I'll go to the defensive guys to talk to them, but it wouldn't be too much they could tell me about an offensive thing. You know what I mean? So through my years, I learned a lot that only I learned firsthand. And I feel like here, we got a lot of veterans that I could learn even more stuff from, and even at the quarterback position and the O-line position. So it was an interesting year there. I'll just say that. Yeah. Interesting year.
Certainly leaving a lot of gray area in that end part, right? Interesting year. I'll just say that. So the lack of identity on offense, who do we put that on, if he's right?
Well, I don't think you can just put it on one person. I think it's a combination of factors. I would primarily look at the head coach and Mike Tomlin, because he's got to own that style of play, football philosophy. That all falls on the head coach. But you also have to have the players to allow your team to play you the way you want to play them, and that's where I think the front office for Pittsburgh has some culpability in it. So even though I'm not going to absolve Mike Tomlin of blame, I'm not going to say he's the sole reason why the Pittsburgh Steelers have been in disarray on the offensive side of the ball. Remember, this is a franchise that's been cycling through offensive coordinators. They haven't been able to get that position right as well. So it's been an issue since the end of Ben Roethlisberger's career. If you look at the last 5 years, so last year Ben Roethlisberger and then what they've just been coming out of, you're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers' total offense not ranking higher than 23rd. Think about that. So for a half decade, your offense is bottom third of the NFL.
Wow.
How are you going to win a championship like that?
You're not going to.
The answer is you're not.
You're not going to win playoff games either.
And so, yeah, I think that Mike Tomlin definitely deserves blame in this, but the Pittsburgh Steelers front office is not blameless either.
Mm-hmm. If this was a report that was coming out of Philadelphia, let's say, and they didn't win a Super Bowl, what would we say? We would blame Nick Sirianni, right? If this was a report that was coming out of, let's say, Indianapolis, we would blame Shane Steichen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tomlin seems to be immune to a certain degree of criticism. And if you have a player coming out and saying, we didn't have an identity on the offensive side of the ball, we didn't know what we were doing, I didn't have anybody that could teach me things because there was no veteran presence there was no leader on that side of the ball. Well, of course, you look at the front office and say, it's up to you to make sure that you get that guy and that he gets in the building and that quarterback helps stabilize that side of the ball. This is something that in other organizations with coaches that have been maligned, we would strictly point to the coach and say, why is there an identity problem on either side of the ball? It would fall on the shoulders of the head coach, but it doesn't seem like we as a collective are ready to go there with Mike Tomlin.
So let me ask you this then. So on our show, I think it's very clear if you listen or watch us, and we appreciate it, we are all very supportive of Mike Tomlin. We all think he's a first-ballot Hall of Famer right now. He never has to coach another game. We all have said if he was available, we would hire him to coach our team in 2 seconds. We think he is the main reason that this franchise overachieves year after year. Okay? But this offseason has not been pretty. All of the suggestions that we have made, in Small's case, in my case as fan/media, in CeCe's case as a former player /fan/media, none of the suggestions we have made, they have listened to. And I'm not saying they should, but some of them kind of made some sense, right? Go after Stafford, leave no stone unturned there, make an offer for this person, that person, whatever it may be. Are we at a point where this question has to be asked? Does he get too much credit or does he get not enough blame? They're kind of the same thing. I understand that. But like when you think about Mike Tomlin right now, does he get too much credit for everything that's happened, or does he get not enough blame for what's going on currently?
I think it's option B. And I think that's why Steelers fans are agitated and they're getting restless. Because, like I said, in any other circumstance, in any other organization, the head coach would wear this more. And Mike Tomlin, with the streak and, of course, winning a Super Bowl and the way that he has stabilized that organization, deserves praise. He deserves credit for that. He extracts the best out of his players consistently, and he deserves credit for that. But you also then can't be immune to blame when things like this come to the surface. You just can't.
I would lean toward the latter, deserves more blame, but not because of anything that he's done or not. Not because of anything that he's done. It's because of what he hasn't done, which is exert more leverage on the front office, be more involved in personnel, push the envelope in terms of mortgaging future draft capital, mortgaging future cap for the here and now, knowing that the standard is the standard, that is competing for championships in any given year. Because I can't give you those numbers, what they've done on the offensive side of the ball over the last 5 years, without highlighting the positives that Mike Tomlin has been able to accomplish despite that. So last 5 years, during that span, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 24th in points scored and 27th in yards on the offensive side of the ball. Now, here's why I give them credit. They are third in turnovers on offense. They protect the football. They take care of it. On defense, no team has a higher defensive EPA over the last 5 years than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, defensive-minded coach. So there are some things that he's doing right. There are some things that he does to allow this team to be competitive. We don't make mistakes. We don't make ourselves easy to beat. We don't give the football away, and we're going to play rock-solid defense and special teams, which is also one of the best outfits over the last 5 years in the NFL. We're going to do those things. But I think because Mike Tomlin has excelled in those areas and because they've been consistently competitive in spite of the offense, that should give him a level of cachet to be able to exert more force, more leverage, more influence on the front office in order to get the players that he needs on the offensive side of the ball, namely quarterback, in order for the program to get back to where we're accustomed to seeing the Pittsburgh Steelers be, which is competing in the Super Bowl, going on deep playoff runs, winning championships.
Before the offseason started, before free agency started, excuse me, I remember we sat here, we asked Dan Graziano, ESPN NFL insider, and Adam Schefter, if you could only cover one team this offseason, who would it be? In other words, who's the most interesting team? Now, as we have a body of work, would we power rank the Steelers as number one most interesting team this offseason in the NFL? And they've made one move. It's Darius Slay, I'm not downgrading, but DK Metcalf is their big move. But they've done nothing still at the quarterback. They're waiting for Rodgers. Wilson's waiting for them. They weren't really in on Stafford. Like, have they been now looking at this body of work the most intriguing and interesting offseason? And now you got a former player kind of questioning them on his way out. Is there any team that you would deem more interesting?
I think the Bengals are still in the conversation with what they did with their wide receivers and the question mark around Trey Hendrickson. And, oh, by the way, the pressure that now amplifies because of those financial decisions that they made. I would still place the Bengals over the Steelers more because their moves with stars, I think, are going to be more consequential because I put them in a category where I do think because of who their quarterback is, they can compete for a Super Bowl. Whereas with the Steelers, despite the defensive prowess and despite Mike Tomlin, I can't say that they can compete for a Super Bowl until I know firmly who's under center.
Yeah, I think the Steelers are interesting. I would probably give the nod to the Bengals as the most interesting.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Ngày hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục hướng dẫn các